Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Keen Minds. This is Season 5, Episode 19 of NBC's The Blacklist, Ian Garvey, The Conclusion, which is the first and so far only episode in which the Ian Garvey, or the double episode, the name and the conclusion of the name, were not run together. So this is an interesting episode. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I am Tessa. And I gotta say, that was an interesting way of doing it. And I wish they would have done some of the other blacklisters like this. They would have just changed the names or something like that. I think the double episodes work better when they're together in one sitting. They do a double, there's 2 episodes, then it kind of works well. But the other ones, it feels like sometimes like one of the ones in 408 should have been it should have been the coroner one and Dr. Adrian Shaw, the second one.
Well, I mean, the first Ian Garvey, it made no sense. We didn't even know the man's name in the episode. Why were we calling that Ian Garvey?
Should have been Pete Magee.
I agree. And so, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason back there in the writing room that they said, we want this. They probably have a reason behind it, but I don't get it.
Well, the numbering of the blacklist is definitely coming into a theme. And the more I look into the theme, the more it's like, I am grudgingly recovering my belief in the writing team. We still are in a... in a wait and see. We're not like this is not like a happy reunion with a big wet kiss. It's just a little peck in the cheek, and we'll see if we just keep going.
Well, I mean, I will say, because I have been really hard on the writing team this season. I have no idea if any of the writers actually listened to this or not. I love you guys. I really do. And as I've said multiple times, I've been hard on them because I know there's a lot of talent. I am still in the place that I feel like the ending has no hope, and so I'm kind of, I'm looking at this through something in which I don't feel like I'm going to be satisfied with the ending, so that makes watching the current episodes a little difficult for me. But from a writing standpoint, I thought this episode was excellent. I thought the line, I have in my notes, I have so many quotes and various things that were matching up for it. They had mythology, they had new questions brought up from mythology that makes sense, not just feeling like, oh my gosh, are we dragging this on again? Like, it made sense that they were leading into it. The lines were fantastic. As angry as I got at Reddington over some lines, like the lines themselves, what it felt like they were trying to portray.
It was well written.
Exactly.
It was well written.
It was very well done, and I went. And back,
I gotta say,
I went back.
It was not only well written; they blew it out of the park with the acting.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I mean that typically is the case. But I went back and I looked at the writing team for it, the names that they provided for the writing team for it, and it was. Hang on just a second. It was Carla Kettner and Katie Box. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing any names there. But Carla Kettner, when I went back and searched what else she'd written, because it looks like this was her first episode she's been highlighted on. But Carla wrote The Travel Agency, and it made so much more sense when I realized that, because that had that little switch in there where it leads you down the path that you think you're looking at one thing, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're looking at something else. And I was livid at Red when he brought Anthony in there, and it looked like he was setting him up to get shot for him. After he had gotten him shot just a few episodes before.
After he shot him.
Yeah, he did shoot him. And I'm sitting there screaming at my television, just cursing at Red. I was so mad, so angry at him. And then it turned around, and I just sat back on the couch and went, well done. Okay. Well done. It was very well executed, both from the writing standpoint and the acting standpoint. It was very well laid out.
I gotta say, this episode was really outstanding. And this was really outstanding. One of the most interesting things they did in here is that they had been going at this theme of the two sisters throughout they've been indications throughout the series. But in this season, they have been coming at it more and more and more and more. And the travel agency was exactly what you had. Not only the twist, but you had the two sisters, you had the graves, you had the bunnies by the graves. It was just like, it was a well-made workout to this episode. So I was very impressed.
Yeah.
Very, very impressed in general.
As was I. And so... kudos, guys. Very, very well done on this episode. And it was one that I was looking forward to because obviously I am not Garvey's biggest fan. Not because the actor was fantastic for it. But, I mean, he killed my favorite character. I'm not going to like the man. The ongoing joke is that I don't think there's been an episode of Keen Minds without either Tessa or I jokingly referring to the fact that I went to stab Garvey in the face. And so I knew that there was a really good chance he was going to die in this episode, and I was looking forward to seeing how that was going to pan out, and I thought it was really well done. It
is very, very, and a testimony to Johnny Coyne, who really did something that I did not think possible. I actually started to root a little bit for the character. Even though he killed, it's like I had to remember, like, wait a minute, he was like stabbing Tom repeatedly,
enjoying it,
and
he's a sick bastard.
But at the same time, when he was there with and I'll get into a lot of that when we get into Jennifer, but honestly, there was a little bit of Reddington there, and it was very intriguing how they've been doing like this kind of mirror to Red that they've done in other occasions, but this was like so out there.
Let's jump into Jennifer. I mean, we've got the task force first up, but let's jump into Jennifer because I have a note in there about that. It really sparked something with me when he told her that what she's believed for the last 30 years was a lie. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it, and this was during my rewatch. I didn't have this thought during the first run through, but during the second one, I'm going, what if Garvey, because we've seen it, that it is canon fact that Garvey has affairs, because the woman in the bed from the earlier episode was not the woman in the photos. And so we know that he has had affair of some, that he has casual affairs or not casual affairs. Who knows? What if he had an affair with Carla Reddington? What if that is how, and then when all of this went down, he made sure that he was in Jennifer's life? Because that is his child.
It occurred to me that he was that he could be her father. There was something in the way that Fiona was playing Jennifer that there was something. When she stepped in front of Ian and started talking, and at the end shot the two sisters standing there, there was something like you could see Reddington starting to come out in the eyes. Like she was doing a little something in the acting that was starting to bring a character that she didn't seem to have before.
Fiona's fantastic. I love her as Bart Kurlish from Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. I jokingly put on Tumblr, I said, give this woman a chainsaw and let her do her thing. Because Bart, in one of the last few episodes of Dirk Gently, got a hold of a chainsaw. She's a quote-unquote holistic assassin. So she just kills a lot of people in the show. But, and she's crazy. I mean, she's fun, but she's crazy. But she had a chainsaw in some of the last episodes. I said she would, you kept calling her a sack of wet clothes, I think is what you called her last episode.
A sack of wet clothes. Yeah, she was.
She's really not.
But it was so well done because, I mean, she really played a enormous difference in when she's, with Garvey and with Liz, and it seems like everything is dejected. And as soon as she got to the part where it's that she realized Red is in there, and then Red comes to the bar, and they have this thing, and she steps in front of him and gives him that line about the pink pajamas and the pink bedroom.
I love
and
that.
And Red takes the finger. He doesn't do much. He just takes a finger off the trigger.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I did not notice that.
There's something in the eyes that happened, like a little twitch, but very minimal. But he takes a finger off the trigger, and then Liz is there, and I think that in that moment, Jennifer, I could see. I mean, she's in front, and she's looking at this confrontation, and I could see the actress totally portraying, you know what? I'm not really that messed up. I mean, honestly, maybe it was a good thing that he stepped out of my life, seeing what happened when he came into Liz. So it was well played, because it was as if a big weight had been lifted off her, and she just came alive. But it's funny, because as she came alive, it started to see a little darkness creeping in her eyes.
Yep.
I was very, very impressed.
I think it would be an interesting parallel. I'm not sold on the theory that potentially Garvey was her biological father or anything. I'm really not sold on it, but I just think it would make an interesting parallel if Garvey basically became what he was, as a dirty cop, as this and that. To protect her when Reddington created
he said there is an explanation for all of that. So yeah. I do think that there is something in that prospect, because we have seen, this is one of several father figures that we have seen. We have seen Berlin become a criminal in order to have the means to avenge his daughter. We have seen Red do it. We have seen Marvin Gerard do it. We've seen many fathers that become what they are in order to care for their kids.
Which is funny, because Tom actually went in the opposite direction. He actually eased out on how far he was willing to go. And we've talked about that on prior episodes. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, when his daughter was missing, he was willing to.
But he started on the dark.
Yeah. But I just think that's interesting that he went the other direction with it. His daughter actually helped humanize him, while these other people that are trying to fight for their daughters or their daughter figures are actually going deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness. Just an interesting thought.
One of the most interesting things that I've seen emerging in the Blacklist, and I'm becoming, I'm going back to my themes a little more, cautious as I was before. It's that I've noticed in the first few seasons of the Blacklist that we had a consistent theme of fathers. It was good fathers, bad fathers, really crappy fathers, and so-so fathers, misguided fathers. But mostly we're good fathers. And, even although the things that we're doing were very good, as fathers, they were trying to do their best to avenge or protect or whatever. But there was a thing about mothers. Mothers tended to be bad mommies. And
that's a quote from another show.
Probably bad mommies.
And the sad thing is, you sounded a little bit like the character when he said it.
Hey, everything gets in the mix as you go along and get older. More things get in the mix in the pot. So my thing is, we're seeing a theme of bad mothers, and it's emerging again. For all that I can justify that Liz left Agnes, the truth of the matter is Liz was happy to fake her death and live her daughter in the most critical moments of her life, being a premature baby away from her mother. away from everything that is mother, from mother's milk to mother's care. And again, the good fathers, the father stayed, the mother left for whatever reason, but she did. Katerina did the same thing.
We've seen that with Liz since season 1. When they were talking about adopting, Tom had a big issue with the fact Liz didn't want to take any time off for it. That was throughout season 1 while they were dealing with the adoption. She was the one that wanted to give Agnes up for adoption before she was born, that just tried to cut Tom out of it and said, no, we're doing this. We're giving the child up. And he's going, no, no, no. And then once she was born, she was willing to fake her death, take time away. And I mean, there are reasons for all of this. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But she did that when they got her back after being kidnapped. Then she's like, yay, I've got my daughter back, and then immediately goes to deal with the Kirk situation and is back at work and all of this while Tom's staying at the safe house with Agnes.
She's willing to give blood to Kirk when she thinks it's his father, even though he was about to jump off a roof with her daughter.
Exactly.
In order to get answers. So it's a theme that had been there. And we have had some good mothers, but not that many. Most of the show is actually bad mothers. And I thought it was interesting because we're faced with one thing with Jennifer, that we have to be clear about it. Jennifer was under the impression that Reddington was a threat to her, that she had to be protected from Reddington, correct? Yet there is absolutely nothing that nobody has ever said that Reddington was a threat at any point to his family. But the one thing that Carla did is that she made a very good performance about being very scared of Reddington with the U.S. Marshals. So I'm thinking that fear came from her. And at the first chance that Carla had to talk with Liz, she said, he's using you. So there seems to be an insidious thing of a mother turning the children against the father. And, whether you subscribe to my theory that Carla is Katerina or not, there is a mother turning the child against a father. And that's a bad mother. Yeah. Bad mommy.
Oh, gosh. No, it's a definite theme that's been running through. And it was and as much as I hate Garvey, it was very fascinating to watch him and Jennifer have these moments with this episode. I mean, I love that moment.
Which was your favorite?
Huh?
Which was your favorite? In the bar or when they meet on the
I think in the bar. In the bar was interesting. I mean, his immediate reaction of blaming her and coming at her like that was a fascinating bit to watch. And then I just love that say that you were robbed. I am being robbed. It's her expression through the whole thing of just this. What's even happening here? This is not reality. This is the thing that happens on television. Mm-hmm. And this is not the reality that she lives in. The man that basically raised her is a good man in her eyes, and then suddenly her world is being turned upside down. I mean, she's going through what Liz did to a degree, except I think she may be a little bit lighter on the spectrum, or at least, starting out than Liz was. I think Liz had a much greater... And we don't know Jennifer very well, so I'm saying that just as what we know. I mean, but they've gone out of their way to show us that, when a patron at the bar was drunk and couldn't afford a cab home, she took it out of her own tips. I mean, so she's been portrayed as a decent human being.
But that remind me of the cop and also things that Liz would have done. Liz would have done that.
Why do you say that?
Because Liz shown a compassion towards people that was always interesting and landed her in a lot of grief. I don't know if you remember when he spared the life when he gave up her weapon and Wrestler ratted her out to Cooper, and it was a life for someone.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that she would have done. I mean, I don't think we don't know Jennifer, but I was starting to see very interesting things appearing in her eyes. They weren't much. I gotta say, I'm seriously impressed with Fiona. It seriously impressed. I mean, there was, I have a background in theater directing, so I can truly appreciate an actor doing a phenomenal job, and she was doing a phenomenal job. And that
Great.
scene when Red realizes that this is a total disaster. This is Jennifer and Liz, and everybody's going at each other, and Garvey's there, and now he realizes how Garvey is connected to all of this. This is a nightmare. And Liz turned the weapon at him at all this.
I have so much to say about that scene, but we'll wait till Liz. So I feel like Liz, like all of this is so intermixed. Like Liz, Red, Garvey, and Jennifer, like all of it is intermixed.
I have one more thing to say about that. It was not only that for the last 30, everything you believe for the last 30 years is a lie. It doesn't necessarily translate. I like that the way they use a parallel phrase to what Red told Liz. I'm not sure that it quite refers to the same thing. I have a very strong feeling that Jennifer is who she is. She's Jennifer and she's Red's daughter. But there is another part to that. For the last 30 years, you've been hiding for nothing. So what made she was hiding because there was a fear that Reddington will do something to his family, yet the bones give Garvey this idea that was a lie. So who is in the bag that is making Garvey understand that what he was told was a lie? She didn't need to hide. Why was she told that? Why was she told that he was a threat? In other words, why was Carla saying he was a threat to her?
And it's also interesting because Garvey's been so fixated on, I need to know the whole truth. And now we know why. He was trying to find this truth out, presumably for Jennifer, to see if she was in the free or clear or not.
Mm-hmm. I don't, and we have to also remember that Carla disappeared in 2014. But the one other thing that is intriguing is that why did Jennifer either left of her own accord in 2007 or Garvey put that idea in her head? Why was she willing to disappear from her mother's life? Is that she didn't trust her mother? Because I noticed that there is one notable omission in all this. It was, we were told this, but she has never said, my mother, what you did to my mother, nothing. It was almost like the mother didn't exist. Again, bad mothers. So what is been going on, and I'm super intrigued because they mentioned the possibility that one of the characters is going to come back in the finale is Carla.
It's almost
which is great.
Carla.
Because, a lot of people have been saying, that story's dead. And I've been going, like, that's a minor character. Well, don't fixate in a minor character.
I've had people on Twitter say that, Jennifer has nothing to do with the mythology and this and that. And I'm going, what? She has everything to do with the mythology. She's tied in. She's been tied in since the pilot episode when Liz looked at Red and said, the family you left on, Christmas Eve. And I mean, and then named in season 2. And I mean, she's been part of this mythology since the beginning. And so was Carla. I mean, how deeply they go? Probably deep, but they were there when this all started. Ergo, they are part of this mythology.
Mm-hmm. So it's all been very, very interesting. Let's go into how. By the way, I do want to mention one thing with Garvey before we go. Jennifer and Garvey. In Garvey's home, there were pictures of horses everywhere.
Also, 2 children. Did you notice? He had 2 grown children, so probably about Jennifer's age. Which he seemed to be at least relatively close to, because there's a picture of him and his son drinking together. Mm-hmm. And so he is at least relatively close to the family he has. It's not that he's estranged from them. You know?
No, he doesn't seem to be divorced or anything, because Red offers him and the missus.
Yeah. And he wears a wedding ring.
Mm-hmm. Even though he has encounters in motels with gorgeous prostitutes, or maybe they're not prostitutes, maybe it's a lover.
Yeah,
who knows?
Who knows? But probably a prostitute. But I mean, I don't know. I will be interested to see. I mean, I feel like to a degree that kind of stuff will not be broached again, because that has to do with just, it's hard to say.
But the horse comment was because we have been seeing a lot of chess. And yes, I gotta say, Jen put a little Easter egg for me in her new fiction, so I appreciate that and give a shout out for it. We know there is a lot of figures in chess, and we have seen a lot of names that we have king. Liz have been referred as a queen several times. We have had horses, knights, and we have a horse, in Garvey's house. So I thought it was interesting that they actually had that there. It's a bizarre prop to have in the walls, and it goes into the chess themes. Yeah. So that's all I got about Jennifer. Great performance.
Yeah, I thought she did an excellent job. I was very impressed with that last scene that she did there. Well, the scene in the bar, that entire scene, I think it was in 2 parts. It was fantastic.
Liz.
Let's go into Liz and Reddington, because there's so much in here that wraps up. And I'm going to ask for just a few moments to get something off my chest that I've already gotten off my chest in a way online, but the problem was that Tumblr decided to flip out and eat my post as I was wrapping it up. The writing was so tight and so nice, and then all of a sudden I get this tripped out, this Tumblr page does not exist, and I'm going, what? It was horrible.
Usually I put my post now in some other
That's
processing.
Because you're intelligent. Apparently I am not.
Oh, it happened to me on so many ones. I remember once I had this one. The thing was like 2,000 words. And it was beautiful. It was perfect. And it disappeared.
Yep. See, I do a lot of, all of my fan fiction writing. I don't do anything on Tumblr for that. I copy and paste. But you have to reformat everything. It puts a lot of extra work in there. So a lot of times I'll go ahead and if I'm just answering something, I'll put it straight into Tumblr. I haven't had this kind of problem in a long time on the computer. Mobile, yes. On the computer, not so much. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And if anybody follows my Tumblr, I had a severe issue with this. And it's something that really bothers me, and I have been commenting for a long time about the issue that I have with the way Red treats Liz. We've discussed it multiple times on this podcast, the fact that he treats her like a child. Now, there was a brief point in season 4 when he came up and was talking to Kaplan about how Liz had grown up to become the woman that she is, had gone through all of her schooling, and it still led her there, that I think you and I stopped on the podcast and went, oh my gosh, yay, Red, he's getting it. And we thought, he's moving forward. And then, no. We're back to this. The statement that he made, I'm so angry at it. And as angry as I am at him, I'm thrilled Liz threw it back in his face. I wanted to just hug her there. But the quote is, you may feel entitled to know it because he died trying to find out what it was, but you're not. The fact which I have patiently tried to get you to understand. Be hurt, blame me, howl at the moon for all I care. And that's really the part that gets me. It's this flippant disregard for the grief that this woman is going through after losing her husband. Sure, it's been a year and a half for him. She was unconscious for 10 months. This is still fresh. She is still grieving. She is still going through this. And honestly, at this point, I don't care if she has an entitlement to it or not. There's a whole nother realm in there. But what sort of father looks at their grieving child when there's a connection to the father's secret to her husband's death and just says, hell at the moon for all I care. Basically, shut up, sit down, and just take what I'm telling you, because you're not going to find out why Tom died. It doesn't matter. Your grief doesn't matter. I'm not going, and belittling her like that. This grown woman that has a family of her own, did have a family of her own, and to treat her like that, as a woman, I was offended. It was just so insulting. And I would like to preface this, or like to add this as a side note, that it's not the writing that I'm upset with. It's Reddington. It was excellent writing to push what they were trying to get with him. But Reddington was so sickening in that moment. And then to continue on through the scenes with his little childish behavior of hanging up on her because he just didn't want to talk about it. And when he didn't even really think that she was trying to play him on something, but he was just petty and absurd. They are really working, and there will be multiple people that are fans of the show that Reddington cannot and will never be able to do any wrong. But at least for me, I started this show a huge fan of Reds. I love deeply gray characters. I love when you don't always know where their loyalties lie and you work through that through the show. Those are always my favorite characters. Reddington was one of my favorites at the beginning of this, and I can't stand him at this point.
I'm going to have to defend Reddington.
I know. Hang on just a second. Let me, because I don't remember the person's name because they've actually changed their Tumblr name, so I apologize if you listen to our podcast. You know who you are. Kudos to you. There was a very nice parallel set that came out I think it was the day after the episode, in which it paralleled the conversation in the apartment in which he was telling her to howl at the moon, and then Liz's statement. She said, "You're right. I'm unwilling to accept that I'm not entitled to know how my husband died. I am hurt. I do blame you. And pulling this trigger, something I desperately do not want to do, is me howling at the moon, which is definitely your problem and not mine." I loved that. It was such brilliant writing, tying that back in. And once again, totally negating on if she should have a right to know what it is or not. I have my own opinions of that. Totally negating that. Throw that out for a minute. Just a grieving woman that her father should have enough wherewithal and kindness in his soul to appreciate what she's going through and to act with a little bit of kindness. Those words are just... they're disgusting. And the fact that Liz is that hurt, and all he's doing is driving her to work harder to find it. He is making an enemy of Elizabeth Keene right now, and that's not an enemy you want.
It's a... As I wrote too, when you posted that, let's just take a step back in here, and you have... There is one thing that I would say, absolutely. Parents have a right to have secrets. People are not entitled to all of us, not even our relatives, not our friends, not our partners, our husbands, wives. They're not. We have a right to have boundaries and secrets. We all have secrets, small secrets, big secrets. We all have secrets, and that is okay. That they're boundaries that should be respected. That said, in every single case that Red Hat kept something secret from Tom or Liz and is being forced to divulge it or not, or somebody else have told them about, then Liz's reactions and Tom's reaction made perfect sense. I mean, realize that he told her that the name of her mother because Denver sent her to that apartment to find a picture. She found out that he murdered Sam because Tom gave her a picture. She realized who Red was to her because Cooper did a test. Everything that she had found about her past had been all when Red is pushed against the wall, or is because she's going to give the child for adoption and Red is desperate for her not to do this, so he starts dishing things out about Katerina during her pregnancy. Which
is a total manipulation move, by the way, in which he keeps her basically subservient to him. Because she wants answers, he has them. He only gives enough to keep her there. Whether he says that he'll leave or not, that doesn't matter. He dangles those questions and answers in front of her, and then cuts her off as soon as she gets close to something. It's a manipulation tactic.
And, take it from me. I'm exceptionally, not false modest, I'm exceptionally good at reading people. Exceptionally good. And with that come an enormous ability to manipulate people like puppets. I can do it without even thinking. But there is a responsibility not to do it. You have to have ethics or you become a monster. And
he has been called such several times over the course of the show.
And yet, I do think that there are reasons for Red to behave the way he does. But I think that some of those reasons are good reasons in the sense that he thinks he's protecting her or someone else. Some of the reasons are not.
I think that he thinks he's protecting her, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has a right to protect her in that way. A grown woman.
Some of it is protecting her or a third party. I don't know who it is.
Well, and then my question becomes, and I understand your third party. I totally get that, and that would make it make more sense. But the question becomes, where is that line? When is it too far? Is it worth Tom's life? Okay, let's say that for Red, it was totally worth Tom's life. Not a big deal to him. He never really liked him anyway. Well, is it worth Agnes's life? Is it worth Liz's life? Where is that line crossed?
I think it goes even beyond this because there's somebody, I'm going to pronounce that, Schadenfreude Queen, and she did a Jungian analysis of Red. I asked for somebody to do one, and she did it. It was terrific. And what she concluded was there is a lot of guilt in Red. Most of the things that he acts from is guilt.
I can hear that.
And I think that one of the things that is a dichotomy with Red is that I think that some things he thinks he's protecting, but when the moment that he told Dembit that he didn't have a good reason why he couldn't be honest with Liz, you are now going into the territory of this is self-serving. I think it comes from guilt. I think it comes from fear. He's afraid he's going to be pushed out. That's a reason, and we have confirmation from several sources, because we have him telling Dom, if I don't come back, find Liz and tell her who you are. So Dembit tells her, why can't you tell her? He doesn't know why. Dembit tells him he's lying, not being dishonest or choosing words so that he doesn't lie. He is lying to Tom and Liz. And so where are these things going for him? Is it him justifying everything he does by protecting her, but at the end he's protecting himself because he has a lot of fear and guilt? I agree with that. And it would be very interesting what's going to happen with Red and Jennifer. If she turned out to be Jennifer, it certainly seems like she is so.
I loved the statement that Jennifer made to him, have you even thought of me? And that goes back, did you even think about me in my little pink pajamas in my little pink room? Basically asking him if he's given her a second thought, which is interesting because it's something the fandom has brought up multiple times that, on his knees in season 2, when they were about to blow his brains out, Liz's name came off of his lips. Not Jennifer's, not both of them. And there have been multiple theories about why he does appear to favor Liz over Jennifer and why that is. If it's because Liz is the one in danger or if it's because he actually does love her more. We don't know. And there are so many, for me personally, there are too many open-ended questions on that to judge him specifically on that. I have enough I can judge him on right now. It's fine. That's not a specific thing that I can judge him on. And so it's very fascinating to me, and it was very interesting that they brought that around. So they are highlighting the fact that Red doesn't seem to care about Jennifer very much. She's never really, at least not that the audience can see, on his mind.
Yeah. There are some things that I could see, and they are somewhat supported by the show. Among them is the fact that the Night of the Fire, I see it clearly. I have watched that almost frame by frame. I think that of all the things that I've analyzed in the show, the Night of the Fire, if it's in there and the frame is not way too dark, I have seen it. I have analyzed it back and forth many times, and Liz saved his life. And I think that there is an element in Red that feels that he's somewhat indebted to her for that. I don't know about Jennifer. I don't know what kind of agreement he had with Carla regarding her. And should it be that my theory is right, then we have a big thing here. I mean, this is going to come to a head and it's going to get ugly. But suddenly, why did he utter first the name Liz? Because we don't know that he wasn't going to say another name, but it was Liz what he said. I have a feeling it's because he took Liz's memories from her. And I think that there is a big guilt in there that he hasn't given her back her life, her memories, her past.
Yeah, and I could see that.
And the funny thing is that Liz was taking both from her mother and father, and she seemed to have turned out better than Jennifer that stayed with her mother. So something got to be said about Carla as a mom, because, yeah, that woman, I mean, she seemed to come to life with Red. It's almost like that abandonment took her entire life.
Something that, and I'm probably coming at this from a biased way. I had a note in there. I really liked a line from Liz that she and Jennifer, when she had Garvey, with his hands on the bar and everything, Jennifer says he didn't kill Mossadegh. She goes, "I know, I don't care," and it was so great the way she said it. Megan was fantastic in her delivery on it, and then Jennifer's horror at that. And Liz saying, if I can't get him for the murders he did commit, I'll get him for the ones he didn't. And, I tend to try to be a pretty straight shooter in general in my life. But if I were in her situation and I watched a man murder the love of my life, I would go that route. If I
will go that route without even getting there. Somebody's a murderer and you're going to get them for the murders they did commit. Get them for the ones they didn't. I mean, did you remember the comic? The first comic, that's what it was about.
Well, and Cooper as well. You had the situation with the terrorists that he and Tom Connolly had the terrorist beaten. That whether he was a terrorist or not, nobody really knows for sure, but they were convinced he was, and they beat a confession out of him because, they knew he was...
He knew he was a terrorist, and he got the confession.
Liz knows because she saw Garvey kill Tom, and she knows that he killed Singleton as well. Yeah. And so, I loved seeing that, and what I was going to say is I'm coming probably from a little bit of a biased scenario here, but Jennifer is just incapable of stepping outside. She's so convinced that she knows Ian, even though all this stuff is happening, coming crashing down around them, and she's questioning so much. When push comes to shove, I think she still thought he was a good person because she was sitting there and just absolutely horror-struck in that Liz was willing to pin a murder on him that he didn't commit, which was Mossadegh.
Mm-hmm. I think that is a theme that has been explored a lot. The comics had it. That seem to be recurrent a lot. And you remember the commercials, Tom King commercials?
Yes, I loved those.
Remember the sense, and nobody was what they seem to be. The good people may be bad people, and the bad people may be good people. And then in this one, you get this criminal who may not be a bad person, and then you have the U.S. Marshal who was a criminal, and people who are very fluid about it. And that the shapeshifter has been a concept introduced in season 1.
I mean, look at all the doubles we've had, all the doppelgangers we've had over the course of both shows, both Blacklist and Redemption, which we've had doppelgangers showing up. I mean,
and I think
duality.
that what we're going to find is the woman that was supposed to be Carla's double. And now that has Ian Garvey saying, well, if that was Carla, who did I had in witness protection for 26 years, 24 years? Exactly who and exactly who are you? Because you're not who you think I was. You're not who I think you were. There,
well, that would be interesting. So you're posing. Let me see if I've got this straight, because that is fascinating. This may be the one way you get me onto this this theory. Are you posing that nearly 30 years ago that Carla was killed and that Katerina took her place?
No, I'm suggesting that Carla was always Katerina. But she had a body double because she had to be in two places at once. She had all the people tend to forget that when Red told her name, he said one of her many names. That wasn't her main identity. It was one of the identities. That's the one that he chose to divulge. But we still have no idea what Carla's real name is, but what Katerina's real name is. So I'm posing that she was always Red's wife. She targeted Red. That's why she uses those weird words like turns your world upside down or seduces you or turns, put the charm on you so you think that you're the center of the universe. Those are very weird words for a woman describing her husband. Generally, those will be used by a spy who's being targeted by another spy or somebody who's being targeted by a spy. Yet she uses them. So my thing is Carla was always Katerina, and she had a doppelganger to play her so that she could be in two places at once. And I suspect that Sam was a doppelganger for another one of her targets so that they could be other people. And they had doubles and they would be there. And that's a woman who got killed. That would explain what Red wants her hidden, because if she appears to be the Carla, then who is this Carla? Is the real woman who was Carla. Carla was a cover, but it's not the Carla that we saw was the cover. The cover was murdered. So but doesn't that sound like Red? The things Red would do?
It's possible, yeah. But that would require me to get on board on the Carla's Katerina thing.
Because think about Jennifer had to be Carla's mom. Jennifer had to be Carla's daughter because she says, I'm not going to tell you what my daughter is. And she certainly, unless she was just taking care of this kid and completely messed her up, just a way to mess Reddington up. Because she couldn't have her daughter, so I'm going to have this one.
You never know.
And I'm going to mess it up real bad by telling her you're a threat.
Well, powerful manipulation.
But certainly I think that there is a possibility, and I have two candidates for that, is the third father, but I think the third father, why would they retrieve it? But Carla, double, definitely yes. That Carla was a cover wife, only the cover is not the woman we met. The woman we met is Katerina. And the cover, the Carla that the world knew is in the back. And that's what got Garvey thinking, wait a minute, who have I been protecting for this last few years of my life? Probably becoming a criminal to protect them, to get money to protect this poor kid from the father, only to turn out that I have no idea who the kid is because I have no idea who the mother is.
We'll see. I'm kind of getting curious. I was about done with the Bones. I'm still pretty much done with the Bones. They've stretched this one out way too long. But hey, they stretched out Who's Daddy for 4 seasons, so this is not my shock.
But there was other things happen with Who's My Daddy. Meanwhile, this had been the Bones, and if the Bones had kept at least the same, but obviously the Bones were so tired of being the Bones, they even got changing. They got clean out, they got sawed off, then they were back together.
It's funny because no, the thing is, like, any casual viewers that I know of the Blacklist no longer watch it, and the overarching response of why was, I got tired of the daddy question. Like, that ran so many people off from this show. They just got so tired of it. And I think, I mean, the fandom has complained about it for ages. They
I was fine with that, honestly, because to me that had been answered many times, so I wasn't really concerned with the question. Because to me, it's like he has to be the father. Quacks like a dog, walks like a dog, smells like a dog, sounds like a dog. It's probably a dog.
Okay, speaking of smelling, it's a great segue into Red. I was the sniffing Garvey's head. I was so uncomfortable with that scene. And the only thing... the Roomie and I are just going, what the actual crap is happening on our television? James, stop sniffing him!
I thought it was hilarious because he has done it before, like completely inappropriate and weird stuff out of the blue.
Well, the only thing he managed was to tell Garvey that he was not wearing a seatbelt and to crash the car. I was just like, you got what you deserved, Red. You idiot. I was just reaching up and sniffing his head. I'm dying of curiosity. Oh, wouldn't that be a good thing? Or something like that. Or if only.
Yeah, it was a great scene. I love. But remember, we have had weird smelling scenes, and that connects with Garvey smelling the doll. Remember Garvey smelling the doll in 508, a doll that seemed very similar to the one in the firehouse, and Garvey took it up and sniffed the hair.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, yes.
I never rewatched 508 in full. I still to this day have not rewatched that in full. I've gone through it.
But you can rewatch up until that point.
Huh? No, I've gone through clips that I need for various things, either for writing or for GIFs or what have you. But I won't ever rewatch that episode in full from start to finish.
Well, for those of you who didn't, Garvey, when he gets to the house where Tom and Red are now hiding in the attic and Denby's trying to restart the car, he takes a doll that is very similar to the one that was in the night of the fire that we see burning. And he takes it and he smells the hair and then puts it upside down. Then the camera does this very weird thing in which they turn the doll upside down.
I didn't remember that at all. Okay. I'll take your word for it. I mean... but anyway, as we segue into Red, and we've talked a little bit about him because I had so many issues. But
before we segue into Red, can I say how seriously impressed I am with acting? Megan Boone really did a fantastic job in this episode.
She was very
that
good.
Last scene when the two, she's saying it's a little late for that. Before it was Jennifer saying it's a little late for that. And then at the end, they just looked at each other. And I could see that there was a little something of, I really got to know you a little better.
And I don't want to. I'll be very interested to see where that relationship goes. So something that I saw as a running theme through this episode, and it's been a running theme with Red, was this... And you and I have talked about it, that he tries to give off, and he does very well. In fact, a lot of the audience finds themselves just assuming he really is omnipotent. But
he's a minor god.
Yeah.
Omniscient, perfect.
Yeah.
And he knows everything.
And that is the vibe he tries to give off, and it's very easy to fall into. I mean, I've done it multiple times. But it was very interesting. There were a couple of things, and it goes back into what I've said again and again, and what we've talked about, that he expects people to just do what he says. And Mossadegh says that. He said he lives in a world where people do what he tells them to. But in my poor scrapped post that I was trying to do that Tumblr ate, and I couldn't work the analogy back into the rewrite because I just couldn't find the place for it. I was so happy with it, though. I said the way that he speaks, it reminds me of... Oh, no, I did work it back in. It reminds me of a parent, talking to a child, a toddler that's wailing because they can't have a toy. And, and basically, berating them and so put out with them and just so frustrated and done with them because they're throwing a fit over something that just doesn't matter. That's how Red seems to, and it feeds into this godlike syndrome, of he's just above the fray. Your little problems with your husband being dead, not my problem, not my issue. Stop complaining to me about this. Stop making this, and I thought it was really interesting with Mossadegh, as the Gospels say, render unto Caesar's the things that are Caesar's, and unto Reddington what are Reddington's. And it feeds into that God complex that Red already has. That so many, and he's made comments. He said to Wrestler one time, he said, that he respects people that go to AA, but it requires...
He couldn't believe in a power above himself.
Yeah, he would have to believe in a power above himself, which he can't. And, he's made statements like that again and again and again, and it was very interesting to hear someone else voice it, and also very interesting to hear someone actually straight up say, he expects people to do what he says. He's not looking.
But he also expects people to do what people expect. I think the problem with Red is that what has kept him alive is that careful cultivation of that myth. And it has served him well to stay alive, and he probably served him very well when he became the KGB biggest enemy. He was in counterintelligence. He was perfect at making people believe. But among what Red is above all else, he's an illusionist.
Legat.
Ren is, yes, he's Legat. A magician. He makes things... He make you believe you're seeing something, and meanwhile something else is going on. He manipulates what you believe, what people believe, and he does that by reading people. Yet, what has served him so well is probably exactly the nature of the problem with Katerina. I bet Katerina was exactly the same. Very skilled at reading people, very skilled at creating illusions. Still to this day, I hear people talking about the diary like it contains truth. A master spy talking about how worried she is about the child and the husband. The daughter is not going to inherit that because she's not his daughter, and she has to know it because she faked a DNA. What would you fake a DNA unless you know that it's not the father? And people are still believing that glamorous woman, and I'm sure that when we see the other faces of Katerina, which eventually we're going to explore them, they're going to be very different. I bet she put a completely different persona. It's exactly why we got Tom Keane doing all those instant switches from one character to another. Remember in The Heist, he was Eugene Pavlenko, then he was the waiter. He flips on a switch, and it's a different voice, a different cadence, a different physicality, a different way of stepping. I'm sure that Katerina was a master illusionist as well, in a different way, but the same.
Agreed.
And I think that Red suffers from...
I said I agree.
Red suffers from not being able to have grown with a child. So he kind of get used to, you see a child and you see him growing up and you see being adolescent. And eventually they come to be one time where the kid just screams at you, I'm not a child, so stop. Or, it happens sometimes with males that the father is going to like give him a swag, and the kid just takes a swag at the father and send him flying across the room. That's when you realize sometimes you need that in order to understand, like, whoa, okay, you've grown up. And I think that Red did it in a way with that little Masha, and he has done little steps, and he has gone way back in this thing. He's so concerned with a bag of bone, and look at all the things that he has said. None of it has any consistency. He has said that that's not going to give her closure or happiness. Then he has said it only concerns him. Then he has said it's none of your business. It was none of Tom's business. Yet when Tom got in, he said, no, you have to know. So there is all these things, and at the end, he doesn't want those bones for a deeply personal reason, and I'm going to bet that it has nothing to do with Liv, or at least not in that sense.
I do think it's something that Tom obviously believed that Liz needed to know, and that's why he was so desperate. Mm-hmm. Because I think to a degree that's why he went behind her back with it, was to find out if it was something. I think he always intended to tell her. He just wanted the answers before he brought them to her. Mm-hmm. Either, so Kate Kaplan gave me this and it turned out to be nothing, so you're good. Or Kate Kaplan gave me this, and here, let me dump this bag of chaos, add it to the rest of it onto the door, and let's figure out what we're doing with it. He was always been that character that, I think he was trying to make sure he had all the answers, because there have been so many twists and turns throughout their life together that since she had just found out that Reddington was the father, for sure found out, then
she was in that like happy honeymoon kind of thing, and it wasn't gonna
she was gonna go to Reddington in that mood, and Red was gonna shut it down, and they were never gonna find anything out.
I think that also you have to get in Tom's shoes. Tom really, when did he find out who he was? When he was about to kill his mother. Otherwise, he would have never found out. I mean, nothing. Red has not told any of them anything voluntarily.
Yeah. And he knew for ages that Scotty was Tom's mom.
Well, we don't know from where, but he did know at that point, and there he was. And he has let I think the problem with Red, and letting Liz know, is that Red had passed many excellent points. Dembe has been telling him, tell her. Dembe sent Liz to that apartment, been telling her about Tom, tell her about everything, and then he burned the letter, and he said, I wanted to know, but now I don't, because he let it pass too long. It gets to the point where what would have been, it's one of those conversations that don't get easy with time. Let's say that you're dating somebody, and it turns out that you're not really divorced. You're in the process of, but you haven't been divorced. And you think that, I'm not going to bring this on the first date because it will be kind of weird. It will imply that we're going somewhere. And then you go into the second date and the third date, and you're having such a great time that you don't really want to spoil the moment. And then you keep going. And by the time that you're living together, it's not exactly the time to bring it up. So you kind of try to close it with a nobody knowing. And now would seem a personal, probably would have been nothing said at the proper time. It's now a big secret that has a capability of ending the relationship. And I think that secret is exactly that. I don't think it's a serious thing, because Tom's face when he found out was like, are you kidding me? This is it? This is it. This is why we've gone through all this. This is when I got stabbed and punched, and all this have been lost for a
shot.
This?
Yeah. He got shot in the shoulder. Everyone always forgets that because he got stabbed so many times. They forget that he took a bullet to the shoulder earlier in the episode.
Well, it was a very similar injury that Katerina had. So I would never forget it because to me it was in exactly the same place. So to me, it was one more thing that we're leading towards the Night of the Fire. It probably take us 3 years to get there, but
I don't think they have 3 years on air.
I honestly think they shouldn't. They should wrap things because there is you telling a story. You know that this season had been dragging.
Oh, so bad.
They're going to have 2 seasons of this. This could have been done by halfway scene. By episode 11, they could have just wrapped this thing up.
Yeah.
And they did so many episodes.
It's probably a money thing. Like, I get that to a degree, but, as a viewer, as a writer and as a viewer both, I'm just sitting here going, stop killing your story to get more episodes.
It has a story has a beginning and it has an end. And once you go past a certain time, it's inevitable that you need to conclude because you're dragging.
What did you just say about, when something is said at a certain time, it's cool. But then when you drag it out too long, Blacklist, this is what you've done.
Yeah, it's just, and I think that Red has that kind of embarrassment. And I honestly think it's about Liz having 3 fathers and going from home to home and being cool with it. Because I bet that he and Katerina were having a really exciting time. They were actually married, I think, and they were pretending to be lovers, and they were covering up all that spine and double spine and all this. I think that Oleander was all kind of a fake, a false flag operation, that he was supposed to, take the identity of a spy that was only known by a code name. And, they got all this, and they were having a great time, having exciting encounters in the car with your husband instead of in your marital bed, one more of 1,000 more. But instead, it was in a car being saying that you have an affair with your husband, except that nobody knows it's your husband. It must have been really exciting. And I think that Liz got dragged in because Liz was not Jennifer. She had potential, and Katerina took her with her and was teaching her how to be a spy, how to be undercover. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason why Tom disappeared, because he also showed that he had good talent.
Yeah, I mean, I've explored that before, that it was tied back, that his disappearance was tied back to St. Regis, and that Bud knew exactly who he was when he picked him up at 14.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case, but I think that definitely Scotty might have been like Katerina.
I think Scotty was not on the up and up. She was definitely a spy of some sort. I'm sorry. You cannot convince me otherwise.
And I know that I've gone off my trust in the writers about the props, but one prop remains that I cannot explain. In Scotty's world, there is a picture of a dark-haired woman with a girl blowing bubbles. I'm sorry, somebody's going to have to explain that to me. You can't expect me to respect the show if you don't.
Good luck.
Tell me the answer.
Yeah, you're not going to get that one. So
I bet I will.
Maybe. I hope so. I hope so. I want to be proven wrong. Please prove me wrong in all the best ways.
All I want is that if I'm right, at the end of the series, just name a character after me, please.
So there was an interesting thing under my notes for Reddington, and this is probably my last big point, unless you lead into something else. It's something I actually caught on the first watch through. I have no idea what game they were playing. The card game?
It's called Colorado Trail or something of the sort.
Okay, because it reminded me of Oregon Trail from the computer game.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, I didn't know there was a card game for it. There was when I was a kid, there was a computer game. You played it on DOS, I think. And you went on. I mean, that's what it sounded like. But anyway, Dembe's going through all of the situations, and he says, "And then everyone in your party has died," and that stuck out to me so much. And and it goes back to what I said earlier. Where's the line? When is the price that you're paying too high for your secrets that you're keeping? Is Tom's life too high? Is Liz's life too high? Is Agnes's life too high? When everybody is dead and Red is the last person standing and he's alone, Dembe's life, all the people that he has around him that he cares about, if he's the last man standing and he is alone and facing this, but he's kept his secret, what's the point?
In season 2, in season 4, I'm sorry, when Stratos Arantos is killed, and Dembe and Red are back in the plane, and he said, maybe we shouldn't have gone there, Raymond. You keep putting yourself in more and more danger every day, every year, every day, and people are dying all around you.
Yeah.
That, and then Red said, I don't know how to respond to that. Red is very shocked because Stratos, he knows that Stratos killed himself. But there is that phrase for me stuck out because it felt that that's how it's going to end. It's going to be, that Red will have to make a decision and change. And remember, this is the man who's standing by him is trying to save his soul. And Dembe is always a voice of reason, and he's keep telling him, you have to tell her, and Red is just, he doesn't have a good reason not to tell her. It's his secret. I don't buy for 1 minute that he's keeping that secret for any other reason that because of shame or fear, because the reason keeps changing. His business has nothing to do with Liz, but it does have to do with Liz. Why can't he tell her? So I think that the bones is something that it's not anybody that he has any emotional connection to it. It's something that Kate knew, and I think my main problem with Red, this is not about the writing, this is about the character, is that Red has, and I don't know if you remember the promo pictures.
Which one?
Of season 4.
Oh, yeah, with the shattering side of his face.
No, it wasn't shattering. It was like peeling, a mask, and then it was peeling parts, right? And you would see the man underneath, and he'd look exactly like Red, but you could tell that it was a mask, and now you're seeing the real person behind, even if it didn't look that different from the mask. And in this season, we've had like Liz seeing like through facets of a mirror, so each facet has a different angle of her. So you're seeing all the sides of Liz Keen. But one of the things that was interesting about season 4, and I think that a lot of the people who idolize Red as a god, and I'm a fan of Red, big fan of Red, my favorite character in the show. I share way too many traits, probably more than I would care to acknowledge in most days. Some of them I'm proud of it, some of them I'm not proud of. And it's that what we have been seeing is Red weaknesses. And among Red weaknesses is that this whole happened because of him. This is on Red, 150%. Because Red had a secret that was precious to him. And he buried that precious secret with the knowledge of 3 people. Dembe, himself, and Kate. And the moment that he knew Kate was an enemy, even if he thought Kate was not capable of unearthing that particular one, he should have gone there. He should have got that thing dug out. And even without Dembe, in a car without GPS, so nobody would know, he should have gone to a forest. America is covered in them. And buried the damn thing where nobody would have ever found it.
I agree.
But
he has made a comment since then, says that he prefers to keep his secrets buried or something like that. Because when he said, I went, how's that working out for you, buddy? But I mean,
yeah,
he's, he should have. Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, but that is entirely on him. He was the one with the secret. He was the one who knew. The second he knew who his enemy was, he should have made sure that everything that Kate could hurt him with, starting by that skeleton, was out of her reach. And then the second thing, and I keep saying that in about every second or third podcast, is we are now seeing the weaknesses that Red has. And among them, 508 gave us a ginormous clue, and nobody talks about it. I'm still impressed. Like every 3 episodes, I keep going at this thing. He led Berlin to Liz because of anger. So this is what we're starting to see. We're starting to see the points where Red makes mistakes, and it's always the same kind of mistakes because of emotional involvement.
But which is interesting because we've talked about the fact that some of Tom's biggest mistakes over the years, like actual, not like, well, Tom, that was incorrect on a moral compass sort of situation, but more like a mistake as an operative in the field. Mm-hmm. He's always been emotionally compromised. Mm-hmm. Like when he walked Liz in season 1, he was trying to save Liz at the end of season 1 in the finale, walked her in with Red there, and then ended up getting himself gut shot 3 times.
Well, because he wasn't willing to hurt Liz or Red. That's why he shot him in the arm.
Yeah.
And that kind of,
he was always compromised emotionally. When he was compromised emotionally, it hit his abilities.
He made mistakes.
Yep, and same thing with Red. Yep. Yeah. Just another parallel.
And that exact same thing is that's one clue they gave us about Red character. And now what we have to do is we have to apply that mistake and understand where it comes from and understand what is Red, what secrets are Red holding. And the secrets that Red holds is that emotionally he gets upset. And the upset he had with Tom was he told him not to get involved, and he did. And he can't have that. And the funny thing is he's saying that, you fall in love. That's no excuse. Unless my theory is right, this is coming from a man who fell in love with a enemy of his country and had a child with her. So that's pretty rich coming from that. So
Red is always berating other people for the same mistakes that he makes. That's nothing new.
He has that God complex that because he's so good at manipulating people. Now, I just want to draw attention to one thing. Red has actually said that there is one person he can't understand, he can't read, and he has no idea where her emotions are. He has said that to 2 people. He has said it to his hallucination of Katerina Rostova. Nothing about you is obvious. And he has said it about Carla. When Liz asks, where is your ex-wife? She says, I don't know. I've never been good at reading the woman's emotions. So there is 2 people that this master reader of people cannot read.
Red has a type.
By the way, 2 women.
Red has a type. Women he doesn't get.
Women he doesn't get. Women with a temper. Or unless it's just one. Because value loyalty above all else, while I'm having a mistress and a child, within 2 years of my actual wife having a child.
He also doesn't exactly value loyalty above all else. There have been other... Yeah, anyway. I've beat on Red enough for tonight.
Well, I didn't. I defended him, so I'm entitled to my little... So I think that we have to start looking at those things that Red does and those flaws that he has and apply them, because we're going to start seeing patterns emerging. And I think it's fascinating because I was able to predict what the season 3 and 4 was going to be when I saw the promo pictures. And it's fascinating because the only promo picture we saw this year was Liz. So this is a year in which we're going to be revealing more of Liz than anything else.
Yeah. All right. You have anything else to add?
No. I'm just excited to see what that reunion between Red and Jennifer is going to bring, because Red is in hot water now.
And he got shot last episode, by the way. Like, I haven't seen... I mean, to be fair, I'm not like... I'm back more deeply into the fandom than I was before, but I still, like, the chatter is quieter because I tend towards the Keen Squared side, and we're all still in mourning. But Red got shot. I think he just got clipped, but still, man got shot. I hope they don't just, like...
I think it was a bit more than clip because it actually turned him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, clip him is like when Tom
you're
clip
right.
him, or when he clip, there was just like ouch, but not an actual turning of the body from the impact of the bullet. Also, I wanted to say one more thing about the mistakes Red made. For example, there was not just one time that he shot somebody in the face and didn't kill them, and he came back to bite him in the ass. He did it with Anslo Garrick, and then he did it with Kate. So you start seeing a pattern here of things that he does, and he thinks that he doesn't fail. Well, he did twice, and both times it cost him.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that about wraps us up. And so you can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And you can talk to us, because we do love hearing from you, over on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Tumblr.
And with that, until next week.
All right. Bye-bye.